So the other day, Jake was talking to an
annoying client
about, you know, what he wants his PC to be like. And at some point in time, they decided that instead of being in, you know, a normal PC case, this would be a build that would take us, you know, a day, maybe 3. They want a pyramid PC case. So we're going to have to custom make it using, you know, steel tubing, just like this one right here. This should be the last of the supplies that we need for this build right here. But holy crap, do we have a lot of to do. It's what? 2:30 on a Monday, and by Friday we want for the frame to be built, the parts to be ordered, and like a test fit to be totally complete. So let's take a look at what we've got going on over here. So I just mocked this up. This is basically what we're thinking. We need, you know, probably 3 GPUs. There's only 1 in here right now, but that's fine. You get the basic idea of what I'm going for. This is gonna be tricky to bend, and along all of the outside, there's going to be Illuminati stuff. I guess let's get started. In about 15 minutes or so, we're not going to be able to change any of this. We're going to start cutting and welding and so on. So if there's any thoughts that you have, now is the time to, you know, speak.
How big is the base?
Base is 26 inches.
26 inches. Can I have a measuring ruler?
Measuring ruler.
That's still pretty big, isn't it?
Yep.
Do you think the client's going to be okay with that?
He's gonna have to be. He asked for a pyramid, and this is about as small as a pyramid can get. Like if you look at this here, there are a lot of spaces, but not a lot of space that you can put useful things. Like we're losing so much space just kind of like down in here because it's a triangle. It's a dumb shape.
Well, the customer's always right.
Yep, he asked for this. We're gonna give it to him for better or for worse. There are really 3 things that you need for a good weld to happen. So the first is just well-prepared parts. So these right here I've, you know, ground and cut and also wiped with isopropyl alcohol, so they should be nice and clean. You also need the knowledge of how to weld. So I took a couple of welding classes several years ago, but 3, maybe the biggest one, is practice, which I don't have. I did a tiny bit of practice here yesterday. Some of them turned out good, some of them did not. I haven't really touched a TIG welder in like 3-4 years. Guess this is the practice that we're gonna get here. Whatever, can all be solved with a bit of persuasion, probably some angle grinding. It's not gonna be fun for me, but at the same time, we just gotta do it. When you're welding, you're basically just melting 2 pieces of metal, and if that molten metal gets exposed to the air, really bad things happen. So a pretty good example of that is here, I still had some good old shielding gas. We're using argon. And this weld looks fine. Come over here, when it started running out, it doesn't look quite as good. Overall though, it's starting to come together. All that we have to do are make the bits that go, you know, from here up to here. So what we have to do for that is use the Cobra Mitered Daddy. Basically, the Mitered Daddy is just this, you know, nice piece of CNC'd, I believe it's aluminum, that you're able to chuck up in the mill and then set it at kind of whatever angle you want. Then you have your piece of stock. It just goes in here like so. You tighten that down and then you take your hole saw, which I actually haven't even taken out of the package yet. Drill down to give yourself whatever angle you want. The angles that we need to hit for this all to go together is like half a complex one, which is where the good old angle cube is just incredible. So you see it's totally level here on the vise. And then we're able to take that, set the angle in this plane. It's supposed to be 26.4, so come on, it's not quite there. Good enough for now. And then in the other way, it needs to be 42 degrees. So that's right about there. Now with those 2 angles, after we tighten it down in 3D, this should be in the correct spot. Let's not look too closely at the welds here, but you know, the whole thing's together. I imagine even if they're not the prettiest, they're gonna be pretty strong. And I think I learned a lot about welding them. There's kind of like you can see here where there's just a lot of weld. I sort of blew a hole through it, and then in stitching it back together, I feel like I really learned how to TIG weld pretty well. So here's the basic frame, but we need to be able to put like the motherboard and the power supply and everything in it. And normally I would do that sort of thing out of aluminum, but I'm concerned, like, one, about corrosion with just it touching the steel, and two, we need to ship it somewhere and it might just pull out. I've seen horrific things happen to PCs and shipping. So we're gonna try and use steel. You wanna come over here, Andy? Been running a couple little tests on the good old router here with cutting steel, and I think I've come up with some pretty successful settings. So let's try and cut some steel on the router. It's a bit more tricky than you might expect, because although there are a lot of calculators out there, they're normally based off of something, you know, kind of like the big old Bridgeport here, where the limiting factor isn't the rigidity of the machine, but just simply, you know, the power of the motor and how much metal it can mow through. That said, this has been quite successful. I like my test cuts that I have here, and I don't know, let's cut out some back panels, motherboard panels, and everything. So the power supply and motherboard mounting panel is cut and in, and the original plan was to have these supports that went up to this like cross member, attached to that, and then attached to the power supply support. But I just don't really like how it looks. So instead I'm thinking that I can come in here and kind of exist flush to the support. The only problem is that it looks like it might interfere with where the power supply is going to be. So we're gonna have to test that out and see if it actually fits in. Oh man. I should have just not showed anyone this and said this was the plan from the beginning. Oh, this is gonna be totally fine. Heaps of space for the motherboard. And you're probably wondering right now, GPUs can't go here because power supply. But that's because we have these wonderful PCIe extenders from Camino. So you probably saw them in the Camino RM video that we have, but they look like this. This is the end that the GPU will be on. And on the other side, we have just this little guy here. So that slots in just like so. And then our data is carried over these cables here. So the plan is for our GPUs to be mounted right up here on the same plane as this like panel that's going to be here. And we'll cut a nice big hole in it so that you can see all three of them just in all of their glory. To support them, I stole this PCIe bracket from an InWin case. It came with two of them. I'm not sure why, but it makes my life way easier. So you'll be able to put 4 GPUs right in there. We'll only have 3, but like upgrading's cool. I think it's gonna be sweet. For this to not look dumb, a really crucial part is that the GPUs have to be at the correct angle. I could grab it from SolidWorks, but who knows what exactly it is. So we're just gonna come in here. Got this wonderful angle finder thing. I absolutely love these things. And it is 50.25 degrees, or 52.5 degrees. Hey Linus. Do you want to see a computer?
Oh, I'd love to.
So this is what we have so far.
This is actually not bad.
Yeah.
Given the initial plans that I saw, this greatly exceeds my expectations.
Yeah, I was kind of concerned that it would just be garbage, if I'm honest. The only thing is the GPUs need to go in, and we have a bit of a problem. And they need to be like placed correctly. So if you kind of look here, we have conveniently 2 plates here. So that you can easily access them, because it's going to be just an absolute pain if you couldn't do that. So they're going to be going in something like this, and it needs to be positioned something like that. The only problem is I can't weld this in and make sure it looks correct at the same time.
Oh, so you brought me for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is a Threadripper 32 core processor, probably 256 gigs of RAM because the client is insane. He has no need for it whatsoever, but you can't talk reason with him, you know? He just wants to flex, right? So we're gonna have either 1500 or probably a 1500 watt Seasonic, right? That one?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. So the GPUs are all gonna be like sitting here in the pyramid. And basically we're gonna have like an Illuminati eye here in the front, and there's gonna be like, that's gonna be like a window, and it's gonna look onto 4 Quadro GPUs because, again, the client has an unlimited budget and you can't talk sense into them. So you know, the customer is always right, except when they're wrong and you just have to do what they say anyway, right?
Yeah, I was thinking like, we originally said we were going to do 3, I think, because it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because then you can do NVLink and then like a Quadro 4 display, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at least kind of makes sense. But I think it's going to look so much better if you have 4 of them, like just the window and 4 GPUs just right there. Oh.
So am I just eyeballing this or what?
Well, one second here, Mr. Linus. So first of all, do you think this is fine? Right now I have it mounted in 3 spots, like for the motherboard. We can pretty easily add in some stuff out here. It's probably not necessary.
I don't think it's necessary. By the time you put a motherboard on it, that will also serve to add extra rigidity. I really don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, and like this is thick.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Are the panels actually gonna go on here?
The plan is to just stand it off like an inch or so. So there's going to be a gap along each side. And then we have a steel mesh that goes along here. You sort of tack weld that on, and then super glue some magnets to it. So you put like the side panel on. It has the gap that for one is going to look cool and allow for airflow, and also allow for us to just ignore that this is not square.
Yeah.
And then you have the sweet mesh below it, and it's gonna be great.
So we just pull a Tesla. We're like, yeah, the gap is a feature.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we need those in here.
Oh, this is awesome. Oh my God, that seems terrible.
The key to a good weld is making sure that you have a good position. This is not.
All right, do you wanna come look at the alignment? You didn't even check it before we went.
It's probably fine.
What do you think?
Yeah, seems good to me.
Because we've got enough, I kind of checked, I made sure this line was parallel with this one. And then here, there's enough clearance for them to pop out if we really need to.
Yep.
So I think it's okay, actually. With this tacked in place, we've actually got a pretty good look at what the finished system is going to look like in terms of the internal layout. So I think we're gonna get away with adding 1 more fan here. So we're gonna have a total of 8 fans. The whole frame is gonna be on feet here. So these fans are gonna be able to suck air up through filters?
Yep.
Through filters. So we're gonna have filtered intakes coming in on the bottom, and then passive exhaust out these vents that are gonna go down the corners of our pyramid. And then for the cooler, we were gonna use that thermosiphon prototype, right?
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it here,
Looks a little cagey.
I don't think it's gonna fit.
Yeah, we might end up with something else. So okay, we're gonna have some kind of cooler over here, and then graphics is here, and because storage is gonna be just M.2s on the motherboard, you don't actually have to account for any additional storage. I mean, really, it's just the only reason this is gonna take up a 2 foot by 2 foot space on this person's desk is because they want a pyramid computer. Oh, that's the table, not the computer, right?
Yeah, the table's really not square. It's actually pretty good.
If you guys are enjoying this build so far, maybe you'll enjoy, I don't know, should we throw to one of our sleeper PCs?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Actually, let's throw to a playlist of sleeper PCs.
Yeah.
They're sick.
And get subscribed.
It's Alex's jank engineering at its finest.
Yeah. The workshop's going away for construction in a week, so part 2 will be very soon.
Actually, yeah, we have to get part 2 done or we will never get it done. And then our client will be very sorely disappointed.